1996, you hear bits and pieces about this strange place, a lot of weird activity, UFO activity. So you go there, you buy it.
Yeah.
What was your intention with the ranch?
Well, first I spent quite a bit of time talking to Terry Sherman. He and his wife and 2 children lived there. He was the owner, and they operated the ranch, and they raised cattle there, and they had a phenomenal diversity of encounters. And I believe that this guy was a squared away. He was a straight shooter. He wasn't throwing baloney at me, and these encounters were real. And so he was in an exhausted situation. His wife wound up getting fired from the bank because it leaked out that these things they were preoccupied as a family and discussing these kinds of things once in a while with select people, thinking they could trust somebody, and these things were kind of happening, and it was like, gee, these people are so weird, you better not get anywhere near them. And it cost her job at the bank for no reason other than this. And so Terry and I made a deal, and providing he would stay on because I needed somebody there. In addition, he had, he had literally backyard knowledge of things, and so he stayed on for quite a while.
Whatever the intelligence is there, it's hard to categorize, right? I mean, you go in, you're initially attracted because you hear stories about flying saucers, then you realize it's a lot broader than that.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out what it is, though, because it was so elusive. I know even now, after all the attention that's been given to it, people have a hard time buying the idea that something intelligent would show you glimpses and not let you ever get your hands around it.
Right. I did not know with whom we were communicating. And there are 2 choices, basically, because of all the circumstances surrounding the different kinds of communications. So there weren't parochial answers. It was either a discarnate entities, non-human entities, or ETs. We could just about eliminate everything else because it would be impossible. I mean, you can't be 500 miles away and make requests that things show up on camera, and you have witnesses that are taking the pictures of the camera, and you ask them, what is it that you're seeing in that camera? And they have no idea what to say because it's not something you've had any conversation with them about, and they're just describing you what it is, and it's exactly what you requested. And you do it again, and you do it again. And it says, there are different kinds of things that are showing up is what you requested, and they're telling you this over the telephone. We set up, we had spontaneous photos in different places. And things would happen. There's no reason for photons to travel 5 feet and stop, 5 or 6 feet. And everything is blacked out behind that because of, well, we don't know, but that's as far as the photons would travel. Or you're randomly taking pictures and you're capturing a nightstand right alongside the bed, and in that photo, something is lifting off. And it's changing hue and tone and shades of color. It looks very mechanical, but it's hard to tell. There appears to be not only the movement, it's in an arc, but it is it's a little blurry, like there's movement going on, but of course it is moving, but maybe there's something else happening too. And no, it wasn't a bird or a butterfly that was sitting there at that. It wasn't some kind of object like that, because of the circumstances. Or you're taking pictures of somebody, you take pictures of rods flying past, different color kinds of something tubular going by. You're taking pictures of where there's so many orbs around someone who is sick, legitimately ill, and now they start feeling better, and the camera is catching all this in multiple shots, and it's a cloud. You can't count them. There's thousands, and you can't. It's in a cloud formation, and only on the periphery are you able to start to see some individual ones. It's all lit up, but your other photos before all that is darker than the aura outside. This is nighttime, and so there was a blackness that blocked out any kind of ambient light coming from the moon or some other, who knows what, at that place. There weren't any other kinds of normal lights, so it had to have been probably moonlight. But there was a blackness like around you. There would be an outline, a kind of a dark silhouette behind you that's blocking out the fact that you can see a tree trunk over here, but you can't see something else right next to you, in between. So, and then the orbs all start coming in. So we had multiple different kinds of things. You know, we had the case where a camera's in view of another camera, and that other camera is all disconnected. You know, the cable runs up 30 feet to the telephone pole, and every 4 feet on center there is duct tape binding the harnessing of the cable together, and then the cable goes through a steel box, and there's knots tied inside, so you can't just pull it back out of that box. And everything's all taken apart in full view of the other camera.
And then but when you look at the footage, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there. We couldn't see anything, you know.
Was that a message from the phenomenon, or the intelligence that, hey, we're tired of you hunting us?
It's all about messaging. So it's all about games and gaming and messaging. In our case, we didn't have anybody hurt. There was an episode with the ranch manager after Terry. I hired some other folks, some wonderful people, and he had a horse accident, but we don't know enough to make any suppositions or claims or anything, speculation about that. But we never had anybody hurt on property that was hurt, and because of these events. So what it was all about, it was games. There was instructions through participating in games that we would set up. And we would verify the controls on those games could not have been manipulated by a human or person in the meantime.
And it worked, though. I mean, something moved these things around.
Oh, absolutely. And we took pictures, of course, before and after, and nobody else was able to do that, was around to do that, right? And the reestablishing of the game was better than we had set it up. There was more information being given by the way it was reconstituted than the way that we had established the game to begin with. Right? It's all about messaging. It was all about instructional kinds of things.
Were you on the verge of communicating, you think, a couple times? I mean, there was back and forth, but you didn't really ever establish who you're communicating with.
It finally got to where from me personally, it was, I don't know how to say that, because it sounds stupid. But I've said a lot of stupid things, so I don't mind. I got a little tired or bored because I wasn't making any progress of understanding the who. And all I could do, I could keep on asking for orbs and taking pictures and wherever I happened to be, not just at the ranch or other things. And a lot of people do that kind of thing, but also asking things to manifest on photos and making those requests. And I would be in Las Vegas, and they'd be at the ranch, and we'd be doing that back and forth and thing. But you begin to say, okay, we don't know, as I said, with whom we were communicating, and this could go on and on and on. Now, I've had to learn to acquire some patience. I'm not a super patient guy, but I've tried to do my best and work on that, and I'm better than I was. But I probably needed to have a lot more patience than what I did have. And And I probably got off on some other track, distracted by something else, and just decided, well, we were repeating a lot of things that was going on, and we weren't having craft manifest on the ranch. That was the full-blown broad daylight kind of thing that happened with Terry. Now, we had things happen on the ranch that two of our folks saw something in a high canopy of trees, very tall trees, and in the upper canopy blocked out stars and limbs, and something was commingled up there, and then it disappeared, it moved on.
The tunnel.
Well, and the tunnel was another one where somebody with night vision goggles could see it and the other person could not see it. And you'd switch them back, and it was true that you had to have those goggles. If you weren't using those, you couldn't see. That light had turned into a structure that looked like a pipe, and something crawled out of the pipe and walked away.
These things were real. I mean, they really did happen. Your employees, your scientists saw them. There were very physical manifestations, the calf mutilation, other cattle and animals that were destroyed or carved up. There were the destruction of the camera, the ice circle. I mean, a lot of things that were physical. But in general, this was elusive. It would give you a glimpse, tease you a little bit, and then almost scoff and laugh.
Well, it gets frustrating, because you have so many of these things happen, and where's it leading? What are you supposed to make of it? After a while, it's not that it gets to be just frustrating that these things would happen, and maybe you can cause them to happen again. Okay. But you want to try to get to what is the point here. Tell us more. Talk to us. Communicate something in a way that we can understand that now we need to shift to do, rather than just guessing and doing all that. We wanted more. We wanted to be able to shift and change the communication kinds of format.
But it would.
Again, we might have been just too impatient and maybe not creative enough in our thinking. I also, I got very disturbed toward the end about something that happened to some of the government people. And I realized, holy crap.
Hitchhikers.
Well, yeah, and so hitchhikers being that you take things home with you. Everybody took things home with them. I took things to my house. Things happened to my wife and to me, and different things. So everybody took things home. We all, we did, but we didn't know that, gee, it was like going to be kind of permanent. We didn't know that. That it's going to stay with you for for years and years or the rest of your life, who knows. But the ones that bothered me a lot were where anybody got hurt or really disturbed. And not that it happened on the ranch. It was when they left the ranch, as you say, hitchhikers, and these were government people, and affected them.
Very dramatic ways, though.
Very dramatic ways. Very dramatic ways. And there's a cousin to that we're facing, but it's abated at least for now, and this other survival topic, right? Very dramatic kind of things that we wanted to have reduced or stopped. So, but going back to the government people, the buyer came along at the right time. I had decided I wanted to
take this off your plate.
Take it off my plate, tone it down, and if necessary, just lock it up and forget about it. And next thing I know, the buyer comes along, and the rest is history.
So on the ranch, you had so many different kinds of phenomena. You had UFOs, you had cattle mutilations, you had trickster activity, the bulls in the trailer, that kind of thing. You had creatures of different kinds, things that would take over people's minds, the tunnel of light. Was it all the same? Bigfoot, I mean, was it all the same phenomena in different forms, or was it like a crossroads for a bunch of different things?
You got me. I don't know. I mean, we had fabulous conversations with deputy sheriffs that had unbelievable encounters, that they saw things. I mean, just here, you know, they're county officials and city officials and some really great people that, like Frank Salisbury as a researcher did such a great job, and his book is a terrific book. So many things happen that in the Uinta Basin in general, and then specifically on certain ranches, and even more specifically on the Skinwalker Ranch. But all kinds of events and activities happened in broad daylight or at nighttime at all kinds of places throughout that whole area. And the police were very aware of these things, and they had terrific encounters of their own. And we were told a lot of these stories. We interviewed a lot of people, you know, in the area as researchers, so that we had a good idea of what other ranchers were encountering. Was it just us? No, it wasn't just us. It wasn't just this 480 acres on the Skinwalker Ranch. It was peripheral to that ranch as well. Things were happening all over the place. I mean, if you thought that it was the events on the Skinwalker Ranch were wild ass events, oh no, just go to the next ranch right next door and listen to their stories. And you want to hear some really bizarre ones, I'm thinking of them right now, you know, to our neighbors there. I think it was the...
Garcia?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say the name, but anyway,
yeah.
Okay, so it's out. But anyway, yeah, them. I mean, they had some incredible kinds of stuff happen, and kinds of...
Scary, spooky.
Well, yeah, because it's not like your everyday drive on the freeway, you know, yeah, the menu never seemed to stop. And it was kind of funny in that the same exact event usually did not ever happen. And that was a rarity, you know, that you could have the same kind of thing repeat itself, so that you could set up methods to be able to equate and evaluate, so you could repeat it, right? That's what you want to do in a laboratory, is have repetition, right? And be able to control and have something else that's a control sample and something else here that isn't. And
not there.
no, it made it very...
Ever figure out why there? I mean, does it have something to do with the proximity to the Native Americans who were kind of spooked about the place?
Yeah, but the American Indians been all over this country, and strange things have happened all over the place. But you can't say necessarily that you can ascribe this to people that were indigenous to the area historically, or is it geology, or because of fossils there? Nobody knows.
You looked at all that stuff.
It's anybody's guess is as good as anybody else's guess, is what it boils down to. By the way, I'm 1/32nd Cherokee, so
well, that's probably
for what it's worth.
Before we leave this, though, the incidents that happened to you, to your wife, to Colum, to me, you bring it home. How does everybody handle that? I mean, is it spooky at the time, and do you draw the connection that it's ranch related?
Yes and no. If the events hadn't happened very often prior to the ranch, then it's not ranch connected. But they did happen. And they did, where we lived with my wife and I. We had a poltergeist event one time that was really fun and very different, and that was before I ever acquired the ranch. My wife was a very strong, and probably still is in spirit, person, and so she took them in stride. She had a full manifestation of a apparition, a human form apparition in the bedroom, and looking at her, and this was a holy cow. And she happened to tell me, kind of like, oh well, This is while you were gone. This is what happened here, a manifestation of this. I've heard this kind of thing many times through other people, and recently, and she felt the bed depress as there was a curiosity going on because of the facial features were distinctive enough to be able as though, who are you and what are you doing here, coming from the manifestation, from the apparition, looking at her, all right? And torso up was kind of what was manifested, and being able to see and feel the mattress being depressed as it's looking at you, wondering, who are you? That kind of look on the face. What are you doing here? You know, when usually you think it would be the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you?
Was she freaked out?
No, she wasn't. She would have there was a bar of light. So this was not normal in the survival research, but maybe in the ET that was between her pillows. A bar of light. Wasn't coming in from shutters or blinds or anything from the room or any kind of other light source. You could put the pillows down, and the bar would not be reflected on the surface of the object above it, on the second pillow. It only happened when you did this. And she did that and said, oh well. And then I said, well, what did you do? Well, I went to sleep.